trying it in the Swiss rounds, but it didn't quite perform so well. And it is that even Shaman that is actually being banned away, and there's a bit of an issue with the icon there for Muzzy's classes. Sorry about that. He has Shaman, Warlock, Druid, and Hunter, not 2 Shamans.
Yeah, so looked like his Druid was banned though, and that's the one that was slightly easier of the two. Muzzy's ban was very dependent on what he thought Ender was going to do, and banning that Shaman, interesting to me. I thought maybe he would actually ban something else, but that's where we're at now, and that's, looking at this in front of me, I feel that does make Ender a slight underdog, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty curious about it because I feel like even Shaman has not the best matchup against things like Cube Lock, Even Lock, and I'm not sure how well it performs against Druid in particular, but it's just one of those matchups where like you stick the Corpse Taker, it's especially powerful.
Yeah.
So I talk about the deck, which must not be named. Although I gotta say, the way Kribo piloted it made it really shine, but it was Rexar that carried that game, not the Secrets.
So game number 1 is on the way. It is going to be this Odd Rogue versus the Shudderwock Shaman. Very traditional list, except I think they're playing Ziliax in this list. Seem to remember, I may be remembering incorrectly.
One quick check says that you are correct. There
Wow.
is Ziliax in Shudderwock these days with absolutely no other mechs that I can see. It's just good enough as a card.
Yeah, and it's particularly good in this particular matchup, so a little bit of tech edge there for Muzzy, but should be okay if he can draw into his removal. But so far, Hex Volcano, when we saw this matchup played earlier in the week, Muzzy just kills everything on sight and hopes for the best.
Yeah, Muzzy's hand is like chock full of the good removal against Odd Rogue in particular, meaning that Volcano is very effective in the matchup. I think previously I did put it as very favored towards the Shudderwock before this meta, but with the inclusion of Myra's Unstable Element, it does make it a little bit better for the Odd Rogue, but still, every board they develop in the early game has easy answers for the Shudderwock in the form of Volcano.
Yeah, and I agree entirely with that assessment. The one thing that we have seen that can be a problem for the Shudderwock, the way it can lose, is it can kill everything off, but sometimes it struggles to actually control the board after it's done so. And so the Odd Rogue, like you say, gets that Myra's Unstable Element, gets one last sort of attempt to do the final damage. But Muzzy's sitting on plenty of healing, plenty of removal, and bits and pieces of combo too, although it won't come down to that. Eventually, it will just be minions on board for him.
Yeah.
Looking good at the moment.
Muzzy has the option to just sit back and prepare for a Volcano turn coming up. Since he doesn't have that many other answers for the minions, I don't think you would want to coin out the Hex for the Vicious Fledgling. By playing the MC Tech though, he could force answers onto it with the dagger and just kind of make things annoying for Ender, but he does draw that Myra's Unstable Element, so after the board gets Volcanoed, he will have some refill.
Yeah, this is nice from Muzzy because he can try and, first of all, obviously just occupy the board with MC Tech, get a value trade maybe, or just take down the Flappy Bird if he gets a chance. Has the Volcano as backup plan, and it will possibly lead Ender to go too wide in a lot of matchups, although, as it stands, Ender is struggling to have anything to put on the board at all.
Yeah, it's not the best choices of Vicious Fledgling procs. I guess you could take the attack and force them to have a way to deal with it, because in that case you would dagger down and dire maul the MC Tech.
And obviously, putting the Fledgling with the 1/1s does allow maybe some sort of MC Tech shenanigans to happen. But Muzzy may well be just more concerned with wiping this lot up, because this can get out of control very quickly, even though it doesn't look particularly menacing right now.
Just don't think this merits a Volcano quite yet.
No.
I think you can just even use the Earth Shock. I mean, you could use the Hex, but even I do think it can hit better targets.
Yeah, and this is what we saw previously from this matchup from Tempo Storm, is they just don't like you to keep anything on the board at all. Willing to take their chances as their mana gets higher. Obviously, they can start to play their minions down and maybe pick up a Chain Gang or something to slow down the attacks.
Ender there, just kind of dumping the hand to get ready for Myra's Unstable Element next turn. Even already equipping the Deadly Poison, which is not in much respect of something like Ooze, but yeah, I think he just wants to get ready for Myra's right next turn.
And Muzzy obviously needs to have a think about this, how much damage he can face next turn, but again, not really messing around, just removal, 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 and assuming that the Odd Rogue will run out of gas very quickly. But this Myra's unstable element.
Yeah, and you're probably wishing he picked up a one-drop there. Instead, gonna choose to delay the Myras by one turn. I think taking advantage of the fact that Muzzy is overloaded this turn and thus won't have a good way of refilling the board necessarily.
So Muzzy has the choice to make here between the Healing Rain and the Life Drinker. Life Drinker puts him to 17 and occupies the board. That's a natural looking play. But Muzzy will be working out the most damage you can take next turn. This isn't the worst time to just get the Healing Rain out of the way and put yourself in a nice safe health total.
It is perfectly reasonable for him here as the Life Drinker doesn't really challenge the Tar Creeper.
And that's given Ender a whole lot of trouble really now, having to play Leroy, which is never much fun in this situation because you know there's so much removal, but
all things considered, I think it's quite decent, especially since he has a taunt in the way. Not even gonna bother to trade one of the whelps with the Tar Creeper.
Hello Ziliax, how are you? This looks really, really good suddenly for Muzzy.
Yes. Lightning Storm in some capacity looks pretty good here. He doesn't necessarily have to coin out the Ziliax alongside it. He could just play Life Drinker because the one Tar Creeper remaining on board isn't too scary. If you low roll the Lightning Storm on the Dire Maul, suddenly Fungalmancer gets a bit scary. So I think he will just see what the outcome is first.
Yep, outcome not good, but
yeah, now
still has
Ziliax
coin Ziliax if he wants it.
Perfectly respectable. Next turn with the Overload, he can still play Grumble. So it all works out fine for the Muzz right here. But Ender is going to most of the time have a full full 10 cards to draw, as long as he draws a card that costs 3 or less.
His issue here is normally the way out here for you with the Myras is like the Cold Bloods. But at the moment he has absolutely no purpose for that, apart from maybe he can get a deckhand to go with it. There's some damage.
Yeah, decent pick. Oh, double Cold Bloods and the South Sea deckhand. That's pretty much the best in terms of burst you could ask for, except for the second deckhand, I guess, because Leroy has been played already.
And yeah, that's pretty menacing, but obviously Ziliax has done its job, and after Life Drinker, if he wants it, Muzzy will be back up to very nearly full health.
So I'm trying to put together an idea of how much damage Ender can actually put out, and with the deckhand Cold Blood, it's not going to be enough to end things immediately, so I do think he will go for building some kind of Edwin board this turn. So you can do that with Argent Squire / Flame Elemental. Squire with the Blood Knight seems quite enticing as well.
Yeah, Muzzy doesn't have, he has an answer for the Blood Knight in the form of Earth Shock, of course, but he doesn't have much of an answer in his hand. Of course, he's got some minions on board that helps a lot. And Ender is on a very short clock now because of the fatigue. Maybe 3 turns is about his time limit here.
I think Ender goes for 3 1-cost cards, then Blood Knight, then Edwin. I do think he can drop a Cold Blood onto this Firefly and push it face. I'm just not sure if he bothers off about clearing some of these smaller minions.
He's going to take the damage while it's there. And by splitting up the Cold Bloods, that just makes trading really difficult for Muzzy.
Okay, so he's not going to bother with the Blood Knight actually, and instead just make a bigger Edwin. And already use all of the burst available to him.
This Earth Shock though, after the Mind Control tech, if he even goes that way first. And Glacial Shard, so Earth Shock, Glacial Shard, Mind Control tech in any order he likes. And Ender is out of burst and Muzzy knows it.
Surely there's a way to disable the entire board between all these cards from Muzzy. I feel like he can safely just trade off the 1-2 with his Life Drinker first and then go for MC Tech. The worst case scenario is you take the Argent Squire, I guess, in which case you can still freeze the Edwin or shock that one health.
Yeah, he just takes the Edwin.
All right.
I'll have that. And now it's just a case of what you want to freeze and if you want to bother Earth Shocking. I mean, in this position, he can even just trade the Life Drinker into the 5-2 if he wants to, but he'd like to have next turn lethal, so he's not going to.
Muzzy has very little burst to worry about at this point as well. He's seen both Deadly Poison, both Cold Blood, one Deckhand, one Leroy. So all that's left is, I guess, Green Skin, if you can count it as burst, and maybe SI7 Agent.
Yeah, he's just playing ultimate safety here, just killing, freezing up everything that could do damage. And the face is actually the most damaging thing the Rogue has left to worry about. And Muzzy, he will lose the Edwin, but because of this wide board, he has plenty of ways of shutting down anything that Ender can do here.
Yeah, it does look like the Edwin speeds up the loss for Ender, but Muzzy would have taken the game no matter which minion he's stolen. There you go, Ender does go down 0-1, and Muzzy, somebody that Ender did say he was a little bit nervous to face, is proving why he is top point earner, or was. I don't know if it's saying right now, but...
Yeah, it's Saiyans a little bit ahead now after that big run.
But consistent last call qualifier.
Yeah. And every chance of being last call qualifier again this year, even if he comes second, because Saiyan is off to championships next week. If he qualifies for Worlds, second place will actually be the person who goes into last call anyway.
Yeah, they really are neck and neck. There's a chat, and somebody asks a question, and Muzzy answers, "You should do this." They just automatically defer to his opinion and say, "All right, that's right."
That's
no
one way
further
to
questions.
Sound like you're clever, I think. So what I do on the cast desk is just agree with everyone I'm with, and I look good.
All right, so Ender still has to get 3 wins with his aggressive lineup. And I guess Muzzy banned out the least aggressive deck, I would call it, of the 3. Even Shaman does take a while to get going, and they run a bit of removal to deal with fellow aggressive decks, which maybe hurts it in certain matchups.
Yeah, it's going to hurt Ender that Shaman went through. So, because it's such a tight matchup overall, sometimes we say, oh, the score isn't necessarily that much of a reflection of how the match is going, but this match is pretty close, and so going 1-0 down is a true reflection. I think I saw a Keleseth there in Muzzy's hand.
Yes, there is, but we did see an Edwin in Ender's hand, and he's on the coin with a few 1-drops as well.
And this is the deck I think we both feel that Muzzy could get caught up with a little bit if it goes wrong. This might be the deck to let him down, this Hunter. So a Keleseth plus curve, perfect curve in fact, for what he needs to do.
I mean, it's just so strong here because not only does it buff the deck, but more importantly, it's preventing Ender from just dropping another 1-drop and going Cold Blood here. The upside for Ender is that if he takes the time to dagger down this Keleseth, he then has a more powerful Edwin turn to follow up because he can go 1-drop coin Edwin.
He does, but the Ooze kills the dagger, the flanking strike looks good, the Ziliax looks coming up, like the curve.
Yeah, it's insane for Muzzy.
Not only is it a great curve, but it's like the things he wants to do in the right order for him.
Exactly.
And presumably that's why they built the deck this way.
Thinking about the possibility of it, Ender was considering maybe, going for the coin Cold Blood as early as now, foregoing Edwin as a bigger minion next turn because he has the Henchland Thug
Yeah, because
anyway.
he doesn't know there's an Ooze, he's got to play as if it's not there. But we can see that this plan is going to
fizzle.
At least fizzle in the short term. Yeah, this is going to go nasty.
It's quite unfortunate. Still, I think Ender is forced to just play out one of those 3-drop minions. The Ooze will of course trade into the Dire Mole, but at least something survives. That he can see, but Muzzy has Flanking Strike.
Oh, goodness. So flanking strike clears up here. He doesn't have to do it. That's why he's taking a moment, because Spider Bomb's actually quite good as well.
I think flanking looks super clean because it summons a minion that doesn't die to the dagger straight up. And everything having 3 attack or 3 damage is just so punishing for Ender because these minions, the stat lines are 3-3. Or, I guess this Edwin is a little bit bigger, but still Ziliax can punch through along with the Wolf if he so chooses.
And this is why the great players, in particular the great lineups, just those 1 or 2 cards that don't really hurt your deck. I mean, Gluttonous Ooze, when did we last see that in Hunter? And it just happens to be exactly the right speed, and this you can see why it's in there for this exact situation. It slows down the Thug, it doesn't ruin your Keleseth, and the 3 attack also still helps you to trade afterwards. So it's just doing a bit of everything really well.
Muzzy here choosing to go for Ziliax without actually clearing off the Edwin, and I like this a lot. It's forcing Ender to do what he would do anyway and make things more awkward for him on the turn before Vilespine is available to be comboed out.
Yep. And you want to give me 6 health? Thanks.
And you're deciding between Deckhand or the Hench Clan Thug. Deckhand does allow the Edwin to survive after a value trade with the Wolf, but it just seems less mana efficient overall.
So this is the first turn that Muzzy's had that isn't totally straightforward, I think.
Yes, indeed.
Would like an activator for the Spider Bomb in particular here. He knows he's got through a lot of Ender's chunky early game. He's got his own Katharina on turn 8, which will just swing things massively in his favour if he's got this sort of health total when he gets there.
Muzzy, being so healthy, could maybe probably just happily drop down both of the 3 drops.
And then next turn you can tracking for an activator, or you just play the Mossy Horror, which looks like it would be fine in a lot of situations too.
Yeah, it's just a decent curve. I could understand the tracking to look for something better.
Yeah, so you can, next turn I guess you can tracking, and then if you don't get something better, you Mossy. And this turn you drop both Death Rattle minions. That seems good to me. Seems good to the Muzz.
Keliseth putting in so much work.
Yeah.
Gotta say, Muzzy couldn't have had a better draw. Things are looking really grim for Ender. I think he might need Myra's at some point to pull him out a possible win condition again.
He hasn't even done enough damage for that to be relevant yet.
Didn't quite get there last game either.
I think it's where you start pointing a lot of stuff at face and hoping it all goes away.
For the 50-50 here, and alright, that's a start to get things done. Now this is the first board that Muzzy cannot easily answer from Ender.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Whatever Tia just said, just ignore it.
Although it still means that you've vicious
you were saying.
Yeah. Never mind. Flanking straight. And why can't I get any statements through without them immediately being proven wrong?
Muzzy's having a bit of a good game is the problem. Highlighting what Ender did last turn, he took away all of the Death Rattle options, activators for the Spider Bomb to make sure that it got off the board, otherwise he would just lose to cube shenanigans, for instance.
Saw a sigh from Ender there. He knows that this is a very, very rough spot. Even drawing a Vile Spine after he used all the possible activators. Not that it was wrong to play them out immediately. But he's forced to actually just trade here. Hope that Muzzy has air for a hand, but Katrina is the opposite of a whiff.
Yeah, Katrina's exactly what is needed, and Ender must wonder what he has done to deserve this. This is basically just perfect curve every turn. Yeah, and Ender doesn't want to see any more of that nonsense. He gives it up, and Muzzy takes a rapid 2-0 lead in what looked to be a pretty close matchup before we started.
I mean, the matchup does, but when you see the draw work out that well, and it's not like Ender had a is just saying. It's funny how you can be teammates but still competing for last call points.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally helping each other all the time. Yeah. Everything they do, even sort of when they're just about to play the same half of a draw. Obviously, when they play each other, I think they probably have a moment to themselves, but they're so well prepped, they consider that 50-50.
So Ender is going to be on the Odd Rogue, which has a lot going for it when it is on coin in this matchup, especially because it activates Vile Spines. Earlier, it makes it so that the even lock takes a longer time to get their Twilight Drake on board.
Yeah, you're talking about the Hellfire against Paladin. Obviously, against Rogue, it's a bit of a different animal. It clears up, but it does you for 3 damage in your own face, and then the Rogue just reloads. And it can be really awkward.
Yes.
First decision from Muzzy here. Obviously, he would love to save the Swampoos for the weapon, and will do. With that in mind, trying to work out if he can afford a tap or not with the hand he has.
Yeah, I would expect that he taps here. The only thing the Ooze is good against is blocking another 1-drop in Cold Blood. Most of the time it would just get eaten up by the dagger anyway.
Spellstone's a big deal here because that means when he's forced to Hellfire, which he will be shortly, he will be able to buff the Spellstone. That healing is absolutely massive that you get from their Spellstones this game.
Yeah, it's going to be very relevant to have the buff on the Spellstone, although I'm not sure if the Hellfire will actually be eating up any good targets, because once Ender plays the Hench Clan Thug, he will be immediately attacking to buff it. He's just deciding whether to attack the face right now with the dagger to make Ooze possibly less good. I wonder if there's even consideration for coining out the Cold Blood as early as now.
Yeah, he's got to do something. Yeah.
Wow, like it. I mean, he doesn't have a 5-drop that he wants to coin into in the form of Fungal Mancer, so he's actually just gonna go for that.
So the easy part of this turn is you're playing the Swampoos.
Yes.
The hard part is can you afford a tap, and this time it looks a little bit precarious.
I like the tap because you're expecting Ender to go face with this Dire Mole next turn.
Nice.
That will put you down to 14 on your 4-mana turn for the Hooked Reaver. And if Ender doesn't attack the player on Hooked Reaver, well, you just save yourself 5 health by going for that tap.
That seems good. See if Muzzy agrees or he's found a different play he wants to make.
Well, yeah, he didn't actually go for it, so.
So he's looking in terms of what happens if this ooze isn't killed, I guess. Then maybe he's going to Spellstone next turn and then he can Hooked Reaver anyway later.
Sure. Spellstone will delay the Hooked Reaver past 1 tap next turn if he wants to go for it, but he can Hellfire this, which not only buffs the Hooked Reaver, but also the Spellstone, so I definitely like the Hellfire there.
And presumably he had that in mind when he chose not to tap last turn.
Sure.
And now the 7/7 doesn't have to worry about any nasty 5/3s and daggers trying to finish it. He'll have other things to worry about, of course.
And you're now, having seen that Muzzy is well below the 15 health threshold, is just going to go in with this dagger now. He's really hoping to get a Vile Spine sooner rather than later. Not that it would be active this turn.
Lots for Muzzy to consider here.
Yeah, it's another question of whether or not you tap, but this Hooked Reaver is coming down. Well, okay, this Spellstone doesn't look too bad either, huh? I don't know.
Yeah, you've even got to, I mean, I don't think he can do it, it's just that little bit too close, but he has to at least do the math on the Mountain Giant as well. Because if you get that down as some sort of trading device, and then Spellstone and just get control of the board that way, it's just a little bit too terrifying.
Yes. Be at such a low health total, and he will just go for the Hooked Reaver. I like that he gets it down before Vile Spine would be comboable. With Deckhand, he's just a little bit short of being able to SI along with this, so he will still have to trade off the Henge Clan Thug. Doesn't feel too good, but he has a decent amount of burst left, and if all goes wrong, Myra's can pull him out of a bad situation.
Oh, wow, Muzzy.
Wow.
Not so easy this time, though, because he will be terrified of that
Vile Spine,
Vile Spine that you've been talking about, so definitely a more difficult consideration, yeah, and he goes the other way this time.
Nice and clean from Muzzy there.
And if he gets to turn 8, things do start looking good for him.
The double 3 drops look pretty solid for Ender, especially since he's seen a Hellfire already.
Yeah, and it looks like Muzzy probably won't get the tide stemmed here.
This looks like Muzzy's first bad turn in the entire series.
It's turn 7, I always go on and on about it, people are probably sick of it. Turn 7 is almost always the Evenlock's bad turn.
Yeah.
Of course, there's so much power in those 4s.
Defiles do nothing here. The Hooked Reaver, if it comes down, is floating so much mana, and if Muzzy taps, it is very, very scary.
So go with the Reaver and hoping that Ender can't deal with it. He's adjudicated as the best play.
Still missing out on the Vile Spine. They're kind of unfortunate for Ender, but he still has an answer with Deadly Poison and Deckhand along with the SA7. Oh, sorry, you don't have to expend it. Yeah.
You get an active Flappy Bird, which is usually pretty good.
You can...
He's hit the Wind Fury because
wow.
he's attacking again so quick.
And he can develop the Fireflies behind it. Stealth seems very solid. You lock out the possibility of a second Spellstone dealing with that. And of course, you never play the Deckhand, so that Defile doesn't completely wreck you. But double Defile is actually something Muzzy can do, but he's just dead to the Deckhand.
Yeah, and he knows it, so he's trying to find other ways. It doesn't look, I can't see anything else that works. He thinks Lich King's better.
Yeah, without having seen Vile Spine Slayer, I do think it's better most of the time. But this is just still lethal because that Flappy Bird has hit Wind Fury, and Under's just gonna take it with 2 health left to his name. But a win is a win, Lorinda, and he has finally got one on the board.
Yep, queuing up his better matchup. It's about time he's taken all 3 of Muzzy's decks with this. It would have been a rogue sweep if he had lost. And now he gets into probably his Hunter versus the Even Lock, which already starts to become slightly more treacherous.
Yeah, just the fact that it's a secret Hunter.
Yeah, we are seeing the best players get to these top 8s, top 16s time and time again.
Spent all that time talking about the Hunter for Ender, but instead he's going to queue up his, I believe, worst matchup in the Odd Paladin, try to get it out of the way. And Muzzy already a decision point if it's worth keeping the Dread Infernal in this matchup just because it's another proc of AoE.
Yeah, because it's so late is why it's a decision. It comes after level up, it comes after Fungalmancer.
Yeah, it's probably not good enough.
And if you don't get anything else, it's a problem.
I do think the Beetle is staying for sure.
2 through 3 minions, then heal yourself up or give yourself armor.
Giant,
seems good.
probably not. But many a times I've thought that in certain aggro matchups you don't keep the Giant, but people do end up just doing that. Just because of the trades it can get in if it comes in early. But against Odd Paladin, so often you are forced to just send your Giant into a 1-attack, 1-health minion, and it feels awful.
Yeah, one thing I do like about the Giant, if it is in your hand and you have to play it, is it really puts a clock on the Paladin because of their hero power being basically so strong. Sometimes you get a game under control and then before you beat them, they have another go at you.
Yeah.
So it is nice to dig those Giants out at some point.
Really strong opening for Ender because he can go for what the Rogue likes to do essentially, 1-drop into 1-drop plus Blessing of Might. Not Cold Blood, not quite Cold Blood, but doing the same job here and making things awkward for Muzzy as early as now already.
Yep, the Muzz going to have decisions, but Plated Beetle will help him set up either a Defile or a clean kill depending how he wants to go about it with Spellbreakers.
Yeah, unfortunately Ender can't play around it because in this one case you'd rather that the minion doesn't have taunt here so he could protect it with the Stonehill Defender.
Yeah, it's a protector, not a righteous coward.
Yep.
So he has to have taunt, get in the way of everybody else, and like you say, would rather it didn't right now.
Rather have it be an Argent Squire, funnily enough. But it is still just going to be the Stonehill for Ender there. At least if the Plated Beetle goes into the Divine Shield, then Defile doesn't clear the Stonehill.
Right.
These are very sad choices of taunts, though. I guess you take the Dread Corsair just because you have a weapon that makes it cost 0.
You might do, but Divine Cleave and Dread Corsair would be quite a swing turn. But maybe he wants to play the Stegon on curve. No, he's going to plan all that way ahead and just do that massive turn on turn 7. Swing turns are good against Warlock if they have happened to run out of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
But Muzzy's not running out of stuff for a long time.
So Muzzy, I do feel that he has to defile this and respect it already, just because this Righteous Protector has just been putting so much work in.
Yeah, he will want to delay this a turn, and maybe he'll Spellbreaker because of that, just so that
that's true.
Going into the Fungalmancer turn, he wants a clear board. And yeah, that's what he's going to do. He's going to just wait until one more turn's gone, and that way Fungalmancer will be useless if it's in hand, so we'll level up.
Yeah, makes sense, and it also makes such a better defile for the next turns.
A lot of face damage here if Ender wants it, but the whole Hooked Reaver thing then comes into your mind if you're only just about to lose the board.
He has no way of playing around Hellfire, but he can make Defile a bit worse for Muzzy here by going for Raid Leader and trading away the 1-health minion.
And this is basically the play around Hellfire.
Yes.
This is just not sticking too much stuff down and making them Hellfire you. It's not exactly playing around it, but it's just avoiding playing into it, I guess. It's still going to be pretty good. The trouble is here, if he's not careful, he won't put enough stuff on the board to even force the Hellfire. I guess he does. You've got to clear on turn 4.
So the way that Even Lock usually wins this matchup is just by removing everything from the Odd Paladin. Odd Paladin has a lot of refill is the thing, and the removal from the Even Lock, until you get in the realm of 6 mana, usually can't play minions alongside removing things. So in those few turns, the Odd Paladin can get repeated chip damage in, and Ender is hoping to capitalize on that, but the time is running out soon, and Muzzy just has 3 AoE here if you include the Mossy Horror. He's got Spellstone for a bit of heal, and the Hooked Reaver is already active, so it's not looking too great for Ender.
And he should be able to, Muzzy should be able to stick something in the next 2 or 3 turns which will allow him to be able to stop this endless flow of minions. Second ooze is, the ooze is pretty handy for this Vine Cleaver turn that's coming. And now he has pretty much every answer. The main thing that can go wrong now would be a Divine Favor or Muzzy just getting a little bit too confident, because you can just lose in a hurry if you're not confident and walk into a level up.
Computing.
So it doesn't look like the best defile in the world, but Muzzy can play it out without being greedy just because he has a lot of other stuff in hand that clears the board. Hooked Reaver, though, I feel like is really strong into the board here, because even with a level up or Fungal Mancer, your opponent would still have to make 3 trades into it.
Yeah, this is the clock that I keep talking about. Now, if there was no way for Ender to buff, this would be just hit him in the face. As there is, I don't think Muzzy's too bothered. Mossy Horror looks alright here if he wants to.
Does look just fine. You isolate
Plenty.
that Argent Squire. Your opponent's best play is then Vine Cleaver, and you immediately answer it with Ooze.
Yeah, and the Mossy's not exactly easy to get rid of either. Obviously with Vine Cleaver it is, so that may deter him. But yeah, this looks okay. And all the time now he's getting more and more mana, which is giving him bigger and bigger minions. And Ender has got some hope here. He hasn't picked up either of the level ups yet.
Dread Corsair does make the turn a lot more enticing here, but Hellfire and Ooze together, oof.
Yeah, and
It does put Muzzy down to 7, which is a little scary, but it's not dead to just Leroy. It would have to be Leroy's second Blessing of Might, which is a lot to ask for in a 2-card hand. Oh, it will be 3 cards next turn, but as long as Muzzy survives that turn, he can very well just taunt up with Lich King and sail straight on to Gul'dan.
Computing.
really nice though for how Ender has played this. He did plan this turn a long time ago. As we can see, Muzzy has just the perfect combination to answer it with. But you can definitely see how this in a different world would have turned out to be a fantastic turn. It protects your 1/1s, gives you a chance of leveling up.
Yeah, the
And-
fact that the Corsair has taunt also makes Defile a bit more awkward in certain ways.
Yep. Yeah, it hasn't given it's definitely given Ender a better chance to win, and he hasn't really missed anything else over the last few turns. It's not like he's missed a play because of it.
Looks like Muzzy's just going for Ooze Defile, doesn't want to take the extra 3, and he's even putting down the Plate Beetle to
As you just
heal him
said,
up for 3 instead. Sure.
He's
yeah.
just trying to get to that cooldown.
So I think Ender's on a Divine Favor to survive draw.
Which is pretty terrifying.
Second Vine Cleaver is not bad either. Purifiers actually makes this board
handy, yeah.
really resilient to Hellfire, so having used Mossy Horror,
Yeah, and the Defile, which is usually a way around this.
this makes things a bit awkward for Muzzy. Of course, we see that Ender doesn't have those powerful... That's not enough.
But yeah, so you stick the Lich King in the way now, and then you hope they haven't got level up, because he doesn't know what that raid leader is.
Yes.
He probably thinks it is level up, there's a very strong chance.
Ender needs that kind of draw right now, or Divine Favor into it. Oh man, that's a whiff, and I do think from here on Muzzy is in the clear.
Reporting for duty.
Lich King is not dying this turn. Dread Infernal is gonna, well, sure, it is gonna die, but it's gonna get rid of a lot of the board with it.
Yeah, taking out all these Divine Shields is a massive deal with a Dread Infernal in hand. Still not quite over here, but it's starting to look that way. Well, it has been for a couple of turns, actually.
There's still a Divine Favor out for sure, because I assume Ender doesn't want to take the 8 here, but just preserving the Divine Shield, I suppose. It doesn't even preserve it, because either way, 1 minion would live to proc it off anyway.
So Dread Infernal put Muzzy down to 10. He'd be facing really unlikely beatings, as you say, from the Divine Favor.
So Leroy would be at 7 attack, actually. With the Raid Leader, it's 9 though, and after the Dread Leader, Dread Infernal, it's still at 10. So Muzzy doesn't have to be scared of just Leroy. It's again that combination of Leroy and Second Blessing of Might. Big ask.
They're in there though. And that's not it.
Oh, so late.
Reporting for duty.
And now again, obviously sticking a 6-6 on the board.
Reporting for duty.
Gives Muzzy as many trades as he would like.
See Ender there sighing. I think he knows that this is over surely after the Gul'dan comes down. It's actually not that good here.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the issue when you don't get a minion to stick on your side before your AoE, so it does just keep coming at you. But now he's in that exact position. He's got to use the AoE, he's cleared the board, and now he can just commence the 2-turn beatdown, basically.
Is there even still a Divine Favor out here? I can't think of a combination of cards that beats the Gul'dan. Ender, I guess he's happy to see Vine Cleaver if he thinks there's no Gul'dan, but...
He's going to be very unhappy to see Frostmourne, though, because that will be lethal on the
right,
next
yeah.
turn.
So is Bone Mare.
Reporting for duty.
Wow. So Gul'dan's like the 3rd best card for this turn. That's ridiculous.
Yes. How often does that happen?
Never, basically. Only to the Muzz.
There you go. Muzzy is our next player into the top 8. The 7th that we've determined today. Too bad for Ender that he couldn't really do much in some of those games, especially against that Hunter draw.
Yeah, I don't
Muzzy.
think he'll forget that in a hurry. That'll be a story he tells people for a long time, I think.
Yes. But I'm sure we'll